So if you're usually looking for the newest diet when January rolls around, then you've probably been making the common mistake of living in food scarcity. Listen on to discover why food scarcity is detrimental to your waistline and what to do instead so you actually enjoy a healthy relationship with food and you feel great in your body, even in the new year. So welcome to Joyful Eating, episode 205. So today we're talking about today's theme is stop living in food scarcity. But before we get to that, the best bite I had recently. So I have a bit of a habit on Saturdays for lunch is I usually have usually some sort of protein, like some eggs or something, but I also have some cheese and I have one or two like good cheeses that I'm enjoying at any one time. And so last Saturday I had this aged Gouda. So Gouda, not typically well known as an amazing cheese, but this aged Gouda, it's kind of like so it's a hard cheese like Parmesan, but it just has so much flavor. Like you eat the cheese, you swallow the cheese, and then this beautiful savory flavor is just lingering on your palate for ages afterward. Like it's just every bite, it's just like, oh, so good, so savory, so cheesy, so just so delicious, so much umami. So yeah, I had that with some poached eggs and asparagus, but it was like this cheese was so good. So yes, if you love cheese like I do and you haven't had an aged Gouda, highly recommend that. Or definitely go to your favorite cheese shop and go to the fancy cheese store and get yourself a piece of like fancy cheese. And it can be just like such an amazing culinary experience. Okay, but let's stop talking about cheese because could be talking about cheese for days and days to come. So our plan today is I'll share the story behind this idea of food scarcity, and then we're going to look at like why food scarcity, like what causes it? Why is food scarcity so prevalent in our modern culture? And then what the enjoyable alternative is, and then also how to create and how to live into what I call food abundance. And I've got a bonus tip for you as well. So basically the story behind this is like I've really noticed in my years of like coaching myself and changing my own relationship with food and then also working with other food lovers in the Naturally Healthy Club. Um, one of the biggest reasons we overeat is because we're approaching food from this scarcity mindset. And what that looks like, it's like, oh, well, I don't want to get hungry later. So I'm going to be scarce about food later. So I'm going to overeat now. Or another one is like, um, it's Christmas time, say, and someone's baked these cookies that you only get once a year. So it's like, oh well, I'm not going to be able to have these cookies again till next year. So I better eat them all now. And we can also create that scarcity for ourselves. It's like, oh, I was coaching someone this morning, and she was like, she had ice cream in the freezer, and she was like, well, I'll just eat it. I'll just eat it now and get rid of it, and then it'll be gone, and then I won't have to worry about it. So she's like coming from this scarcity mindset of like, oh, got to get rid of the ice cream. And then another one can be like, which kind of can seem on the surface like a food scarcity thing that can seem like quite like beneficial is just this idea that, oh, I need to eat, I'm not getting enough protein, or I'm not getting enough veggies, or I'm not eating enough healthy stuff. So therefore I need to overeat now to make sure I'm getting all the nutrition that my body needs. And then another huge one, particularly this time of year, is when we tell ourselves, oh, well, I'm in January, like January 1st, I'm going to be like super, super healthy. I'm going to be really diligent. I'm going to really pay attention to my food, or I'm going to start some crazy diet. So that's okay. I've got that sorted then. So now I need to eat what I can because January is coming. And sometimes that isn't even like these thoughts. They're not necessarily, because when you say that out loud, it's like, of course, like, that's not a good idea, but a lot of it's subconscious. Like, it's not like we're actually telling ourselves this, but that we're operating from this subconscious sort of, oh, well, every year in January, like, it does get pretty scarce around here. So we've got to make the most of all this amazing holiday food while we can. And so why is this food scarcity so prevalent? And I think it really comes like in modern culture, it really comes from this messaging that we've been having for years and years that like to lose weight, we need to like eat less and move more. Like just do that and you'll be fine. And so it's like, but it's not just that we need to eat less than we're currently eating. The thing is that the messaging is that we need to eat less than what our body needs. So we need to be in this calorie deficit in order to lose weight. And that that premise that we need to be eating less than we need, that creates a lot of this scarcity. And then the other flavors of it come from different circumstances, but that the overall um, messaging, that thing of like, yeah, like no pain no gain, like we need to be starving ourselves if we want to lose weight, that's where it comes from. and and of course, like when I've gone through those examples, you can see how that drives so much of our overeating, and actually it backfires in so many ways, and then it keeps us in this state of struggle where we're like, eating everything under the sun in December, and then in January we're like trying to starve ourselves, and it just in this feast or famine cycle, and how unhelpful that is, and how like miserable it is as well, and how it's not very nice for food either to be like, oh yeah, like eat all of me now and then like ignore me, like if you think about like really like the relationship with food, if that's how we're treating food, like of course it's our relationship's going to be strained and problematic. So what's the alternative? The good news is there is an alternative. And the other good news is that it's really enjoyable as well. And that's to, rather than being operating from food scarcity mode, is to be operating from food abundance. And so, what, how do we go about creating food abundance, Jules? Like, what does that exactly does that mean? Does it mean that we like that we eat everything in sight? What food abundance mean? It's really how we think about food, right? And so, we first of all is just like deciding that you're not going to buy into that restriction. Like we have to be eating less than our bodies need. We have to be in this calorie deficit. You're not going to do that anymore, because it doesn't work. Like if it really did work, like everyone would be thin. Like it wouldn't be a problem. It like weight wouldn't be a problem for us. So we know that doesn't work. So just make that decision. Yep, okay, I'm not restricting anymore. I'm not going to do that any of those crazy diet things. And then the next thought that I think is really helpful is actually just reminding yourself that there will be plenty of amazing food in my future. So this is one of the thoughts that I really hone into my clients in the Naturally Healthy Club, is that just reminding ourselves that yes, going to have amazing food today. I'm going to let myself have amazing food tomorrow. I'm going to let myself have amazing food the next day, and in January, and then in April when it's Easter. Like there's always going to be more delicious food. And when we can really embrace this idea that actually I can give myself permission to have amazing food as much as frequently as I want, that helps open us up to this feeling of abundance. It helps us feel like, oh yeah, I don't have to eat all these Christmas cookies now, because I'm going to have something delicious next week, and also I'll be able to have these cookies again next year. So it really makes a huge difference. And then the other way to create food abundance is to actually intentionally plan and give yourself permission to have the foods that you love, and include things in your regular life. Like do this on a regular basis. So I started the episode with sharing my story about my cheese. And so like for me, I love cheese. And so I'm planning, and I make sure that I am having cheese. Like I don't just normally have it like I at least once a week. Sometimes I have different cheeses more times a week. It's not like I have this rule about cheese, but I have this habit of like, I love cheese. So I'm giving myself permission to have cheese, and I actually plan in the cheese and get to enjoy the anticipation of cheese. I get to enjoy the shopping for the cheese. Like it's really fun. Um, and so yeah, like intentionally planning in to have foods that you love. And that what that does is like when the more you do that, of like actually planning in and giving yourself permission to have the food that you love, that helps to create this trust with yourself of like, oh yeah, I do let myself have delicious food all the time, and helps create more of that feeling of food abundance. Um, and then another in terms of how to create food abundance. So we said we're going to decide not to restrict, but what that actually looks like is just always letting yourself feel satisfied at meals before you stop eating. So no starving yourself, no like, oh, I can't feel satisfied, like I have to stop while I'm still hungry. No, we want to let ourselves turn off that hunger. We want to let ourselves feel, yeah, that's good, that's enough. Um, so that we're feeling that abundance, and then moving on. So it doesn't mean that we're eating till we're over satisfied, like there is this window, but we want to eat until we're satisfied, so that we're feeling abundant, we're feeling like well nourished every day. And I just want to offer to you, so you're like, okay, well, if I eat until I'm satisfied, that means I'm not going to lose weight. So really, in order to lose weight, you just need to stop eating as much as you've been eating in the past, right? So if you're used to you eating like a big chunk of food every day, like if you cut that back a little bit and stop feeding yourself so much, then the weight's going to start to shift. And but that new lesser amount, you can still be like, that's, you don't have to cut it back so much that you feel that you're starving yourself. If you just cut it back a little bit, yeah, is the weight going to take longer to shift this way? Absolutely. But the thing is, because you haven't been starving yourself, you're not in food scarcity, so it's going to feel sustainable. So I know it's a bit counterintuitive, but it really, this gentle, like incremental, little bit less is the easiest and most joyful and enjoyable way to actually lose weight, where people are like, and it's like so mad because, like, my clients are like, yeah, like I'm eating until I feel satisfied, I'm enjoying my food, and then the things are like still moving on the scale, like it's like, what is this witchcraft? So yeah, it is as simple as like letting yourself feel satisfied but eating less than you have been in the past. And then um and then the final piece of creating food abundance is to expect there will be times where you overdo it, like, right? There'll be times where you overindulge, where you have that second helping of cheesecake and you're like, oh, I really didn't need that extra slice. And you feel like gross later. And so to continue with that food abundance, what the important thing is like just what you make it mean when you do overindulge. So you could choose to shame yourself and go, oh, look, I don't deserve to have cheesecake ever again, um, and go into restriction mode, which I highly don't, obviously don't recommend. But what you can do instead is just choose to be self-compassionate. It's like, oh yeah, of course, of course I overate that cheesecake. Of course I had that extra brownie, whatever. And just like, I'm human. I don't have to do any of this perfectly. And just continue on. Like, okay, cool. Is there something for me to learn here? If there is, great. If not, then you just move on. Like, you don't use it as a reason to make you mean that you can't be trusted. Use it as like, oh yeah, cool. This is just me adjusting. This is me just calibrating. This is just me being human and overeating because that's okay for me to do from time to time. And it's actually just a good reminder of that. When I do this, it doesn't feel good and this isn't what I want. And just leaving it at that. So no judgment, no shame, and just going into it from this place of like self-acceptance and compassion instead, which feels really good and abundant as well. Okay, so that's it. That's how we create food abundance. So we make that decision, and then we give ourselves permission to have things, and we let ourselves eat until we're satisfied. And then a bonus tip for you is because you're probably traveling, or there's probably some special holiday treats that are on around this time. And I think when we're traveling, um, there can be that sneaky thought in the back of our mind of like, oh, I'm ever only going to be in this place where they have this special delicacy once in my life. Like, I'm in Naples eating pizza. Like, I only going to get, and probably never, when am I ever going to be back in Naples? And that can create a bit of scarcity. So I want you to just, when you're traveling, just remind yourself that, yeah, okay, cool. Like, yes, I'm probably not going to be back in Naples for a while, but I will have other good pizza. Like, it's not like, and just reminding yourself there'll be plenty of amazing pizza in my future. Like, will it be the same? Maybe not, but there's going to be good food. I'm going to have good food. Or if it's not pizza, whatever it is, just reminding yourself that, yeah, I'm going to have delicious food. There's no need to like go mental now. So that's my bonus tip for you. Okay, so that's it for this week. So have a fantastic week. Yeah, just playing around with this idea of being in food abundance and giving yourself that permission, and just notice how different it feels when you are operating from that different mindset. Okay, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next week.